police survival, and low-light shooting. The purpose of this three-part program is to prepare peace officers for deadly force encounters. The incident goes through each step of a shooting, from survival to your physiological reactions to perception distortion. Next, we look at how most police shootings actually take place and how this course was developed based on street experience and reality. Finally, we present the instinctive shooting course created by Julio Santiago. It's a self-paced training program you can do yourself.
For 21 minutes.
The incident you've just witnessed could happen to you. Whether you survive an incident or not will depend on a combination of proper training, streetwise experience, and natural human instinct. Almost every officer, almost every person who has ever been involved in a shooting reports experiencing the same sensations of vision, hearing, heartbeat, and memory. The purpose of this video is to examine that experience moment by moment. So if it ever happens to you, you will be better prepared, less disoriented, and afterward, you will be able to understand and report the incident.
Now!
This incident lasted only 2.6 seconds from the perception of the threat to the final shot. As with most shootings, the officer walking into this incident is behind the curve, playing catch-up. Thanks to his training, experience, and instincts, he survived, and so can you. Let's take a close look at this shooting incident and examine what you can do to increase your chances of survival. Your first rule is to be aware of your environment. Expect the unexpected. Convenience stores are high-risk crime businesses. So before even entering the store, you should be looking for any unusual activity. In every situation requiring an action, everyone goes through PDR: perception, decision, reaction. In a car accident, it usually takes 3/4 to 1.5 seconds for the driver to perceive the danger, decide what to do, and then react, even to just put on the brakes. The more alert you are, the quicker you perceive the threat. Deciding what to do and doing it are built in by good training. In this case, the officer's view is obstructed by window signs and store fixtures, and he's distracted with his baton.
Now!
As he enters the store, his view is still partially blocked by store fixtures. He is unaware that a robbery is in progress. It isn't until the officer turns toward the register that he sees the first warning signs of danger. In the next few seconds, the officer must recognize the danger signs, decide what to do, and react. He knows the clerk, and the frozen look on her face is an obvious warning. At the same moment,
now,
the officer hears a demand. He doesn't know what the man is saying. He could just be an irritated customer. At this point, the officer has no legal just cause for drawing his weapon. He looks at the suspect's hands and sees nothing wrong, but he detects a pistol grip tucked in the suspect's belt.
now!
Are you now justified in drawing your weapon? In many states, carrying a visible gun without a permit is perfectly legal. In fact, he may even have a permit to carry the gun. The whole affair could be totally innocent, but warning bells are sounding in your head. Here's where training, patrol experience, and instinct start working together. Convenience stores are high-risk businesses. The clerk is frozen, a demand is being made, and a pistol is in view. Despite the always present ambiguities, your senses begin to go into the combat mode. Some senses shut down, while others are amplified. The first sense to change is time. Time slows to a crawl. Your hearing ignores background noise of any kind. On the other hand, you may very well hear your heart beating at a clear, loud, modulated pace. Your vision begins to tunnel, with the suspect at the other end. You see nothing else. Not people in the background, nothing but the threat. Adrenaline pumps into your body, alerting every nerve ending, amplifying your strength and concentration. In the slow-motion world, you may actually be hyperventilating. In this highly charged combat mode, your brain will record minute details. The gold and blue bauble on the suspect's stocking cap, the tiny fish-like design on his collar, even a single gray hair. Remember, this is all taking place in a few seconds, but to the two participants, it takes place in slow motion. Even years later, you can recall and relive incredibly minute details of an incident that took only a few seconds to unfold. As the suspect notices the officer, the entire complexion of the incident changes from suspicion to the danger mode. The suspect automatically switches into his self-preservation mode. He isn't confined by the rules and regulations the officer must abide by. He is free to act based on his own set of morals and values. And he's making his decision to act based on fear. Fear of prison and fear of death. It's important to understand that even as the suspect turns towards the officer, he could be turning to raise his hands to surrender, or he could be turning to shoot. In effect, he's in the offensive mode, and the officer is playing defense. He'll merely react to the actions of the suspect. As the suspect reaches for his gun, there is no longer any doubt of his intentions. Even if you do everything right and have good training and equipment, your chances in such a situation are still only 50-50. You're still reacting a split second behind the initial action of the suspect. Your degree of superior training, gunmanship, and reflexes will decide the outcome. Statistics tell us that only a small percentage of shots fired by police officers in combat situations ever hit anything, which emphasizes the importance of practice and training. Shootings are extremely stressful events. A shooting can leave you completely drained of mental and physical energy. It's not uncommon to sleep for 24 hours after a shooting. In slow motion, you can see that the suspect actually drew and fired before the officer. Unfortunately for the suspect, the officer had accuracy on his side. He reacted quickly and got off well-placed shots to the suspect's center mass. The vast majority of shots fired in law enforcement situations by both the officer and the perpetrator miss. Only 14% hit their target. 86% miss. Legendary lawman Wyatt Earp once said, "The secret to winning a gunfight is taking your time in a hurry." The principle is the same today as it was in Dodge City over 100 years ago. The more you train, the more time you will have. Even a fraction of a second gives you an advantage.
The money, damn it, now!
As we indicated earlier, after a shooting you will probably be drained physically and emotionally. You may want to wait to give a full statement until after you've reflected on what happened. Tunnel vision, loss of hearing, slow motion, and minute detail are normal responses during a shooting incident. You are not unique or going crazy. It is what happens to everyone. As a survivor, you can help others in your department to cope and understand what happens during the most intense moment in anyone's life.
The following program was given at the Wyoming Law Enforcement Training Center.
My name is Julio Santiago, and this night shooting course really started way back in late 1968 and early 1969. At that time, I was interested in trying to develop a new sighting device for police so they could shoot at night, because I knew that we couldn't hit anything at night. So I had a very good friend named Lal Knutson, and me and Lal used to always meet over at the American Legion in Rosemont and talk about night shooting. And one evening he came in and he said, J.A., he said, I seen something. He said, a friend of mine has this material that he set on a table. He says, it creates its own light, it's radioactivity, and it glows in the dark. And I said, Lal, what do they use this stuff for? And he says, they use it in space capsules. He says, in case the power goes off in the capsule, that this radioactivity would take over so the guys could see all the dials and switches. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I said, Lal, we started kicking around. I said, can this friend of yours, can you ask him, can he make this soft luminous material up, say a diameter of 33,000 inches, maybe 150 thousandths long bar, and can he do a dot, say 50,000 circumference? Lal says, I don't know. He said, but I'll talk to him about it. So about 3 days later, get a phone call from EK. He says, Julio, he said, you know that stuff we discussed, that friend of mine had that material? I said, yeah. He says, well, he said, I asked him and he gave me stuff, and he says, I think we should meet. You should take a look at it, see what you think. I said, all right, EK. I said, I'll bring my gun over. You bring the drill and some epoxy, and we'll meet at his police, which is Apple Valley Station, in about 20 minutes. So I walked in. Lal had this stuff there. He turned the lights out. He showed us and said, hey, it looks pretty good. So I held the gun. He drilled it out, cleaned off the front surface. We epoxied in the dot, and we laid it in the back bar. Walked out the back door of the Apple Valley Police Station, opened up the door, looked over and seen County Road 23. Cedar Avenue runs by, County Road sign. I took my gun up, took a look at it, and said, holy cow, I think we got it. What do you think, EK? He took a look, and that was the birth of Night Sight. From there, it was a perfect sight picture, beautiful. Next thing we do, we had it, right? So we went down and applied for a patent. We were the only two police officers ever issued a patent on soft luminous gun sights in the United States, and we're in business. We got Night Sight. Scores went up. We could hear the thunder, the clapping. The next thing, newspaper articles. 2 Minnesota police officers gave a whole new concept after 200 years to law enforcement, shoot better at night. Magazine articles that come out, television appearances. We could hear the thunder. Wonderful. Me and Lal was walking around in thunder. Next thing we know, J. Edgar Hoover contacted us. He invited us to come to the FBI Academy. He wanted to meet us. Oh, the thunder was even louder now. One day we hopped on an airplane with Mr. Hoover's invitation, and we went to Washington, D.C. to see J. Edgar. Presented Mr. Hoover with the gun, with the original Night Sight on it. He accepted it. And he asked if he knew that he set up a deal that me and my partner, EK, would spend 4 days at the FBI Academy demonstrating this new sight. And when he was going out the door, he stopped. As a gentleman, he said, if they don't treat you right at the academy, you let me know. You know, when we got there, we had everything. Red carpet, the whole bit. I met the director, which was Hal Light. And for the next 4 days, the two guys was Robert Monroe and John Cox. Robert Monroe did all the shotgun testing. Cox did all the handgun testing. They would drop for phenomenal. They was hitting pop-up targets, 10 for 10, shooting with these sights lining everything up, and they really did do some great stuff at the FBI Academy with Night Sight. They were so impressed. After our third day there, Thursday, they set up a meeting with us to meet with the guys in charge of Secret Service. And the gentleman in charge of firearm training, a young kid about our age, was a guy named Don Edwards. So the FBI, after they was all done with this, and we called Mr. Hoover from the academy, said he was leaving. He wished us good luck and said that he'd keep in contact with us. The FBI took us to the Secret Service. So they took us into the range. They brought in some other people. We did a demonstration for the Secret Service. They did about the same thing that the FBI did with the sights, sighting them at night, shooting at still targets, moving targets. It was phenomenal. And me and EK come back to Minneapolis, and we step off the plane, we could hear the thunder again. Applause. The Dakota County deputies, Goldby Chair, Hoover sits up with the gun, and all of this adulation and people writing about us, about this new gun sight. It was wonderful. What happened after that, I was sitting there and got a call from a gentleman named Lenny Chuck, who was a head firearm instructor for the state of Minnesota. Lenny said, I heard about you. I've seen all these things good about you. He said, how would you like to become a firearm instructor for the state of Minnesota and teach all the recruits? I said, I would do it, Lenny, providing that I don't have to do it in the summertime, because I planned on going on tour with night sights and visiting all these departments and trying to sell them on the concept of night sight. He said, you'll be only working in the wintertime, and I became a firearm instructor for the state of Minnesota. That one opportunity gave me the best resource I had for ideas and concepts I could come across. By observing those students very carefully and trying to teach them, most of the time I was learning more than I taught. It was the best source of information for new concepts, developing new techniques. For a firearm instructor is to teach students and pay attention to what the students are, because that's a great source of information for us. So that was it, and now I'm a firearm instructor for the state of Minnesota. Big deal, right? I'm not there for maybe 2 or 3 months when I became involved in my first shooting. My first shooting, when I got engaged in this shooting with this subject, from that moment on, I knew after that shooting the limitations of night sight. Night sight is good in police work, but it's only going to apply about 10% of the time. Another thing I found out from that first shooting that I was involved in, that it changed my whole idea and concepts about firearms training for police officers. That moment changed all the things I was doing and thinking, and all the written stuff at the time, and most of the stuff that was taught was contrary to reality. There's two things in police work. There's theory and there's reality. And from that shooting, changed the rest of my life. The way I teach police officers and the way I thought about night sight and the way I try to develop from that moment on techniques that keep police officers alive. What happened to me was when I got engaged in this first one, and we start going for our guns, everything started moving in slow motion. Adrenaline started pumping into my system. I could hear my heart pound, but I couldn't hear my gun go off. A time warp, a tunnel vision, where that I'm looking at this guy and only seeing a very small portion of him. My perception now that everything is moving in slow motion, although I'm moving as fast as I can, when my gun goes off, I can see it come up and come down, but I never see my gun sights. So what does that tell me? Is this only happening to me, or is this the rule when police officers involved in these type of shootings? I visited most of all the major police departments in the United States: Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York, Albany. I interviewed in 2.5 years to 3 years over 70 police officers, all involved in shooting. And all of them were saying the same thing. They all felt exactly what I felt about getting caught in a shooting with the psychic tech syndrome, with the slow motion, the television, the distorted sound. That all held true. But the one thing that rang through all these tape interviews, None of these police officers, only one of these police officers seen his gun sight in a shooting, and that was a New York City policeman. All the rest of these police officers in all those interviews had never even seen the gun sight. Most of them didn't even see the gun in their hand. What happened to their brain, they just get it out as fast as they could and start shooting back at the subject. Now the New York police officer, the only one that admitted he's seen his sight, he's seen it for the first shot. And I said, explain to me what you've seen. When he brought his gun up, the guy was against the wall, standing against the wall. He said, and he seen that shot for the first time. Boom, when he pulled the first trigger. When that gun exploded in his hand and came up, from that moment on, he never seen his gun sights again. He never even seen his gun. And all I can remember is this gun jumping in his hand. Everything now is in slow motion. Each time that this guy was being hit, he was bouncing back against the wall. And he said he kept pulling, and he pulled and pulled until the gun no longer jumped. And the guy quit hitting the wall. Now he's seeing a small portion of the guy's face again. The guy starts falling forward. His knees hit the ground. The police officer is still intense. It's still in slow motion. It's still taking a long time. He said then what happened, he fell forward, his arms hit the ground, then his chest hit the ground, and then his head hit the floor, and he's so intense looking at this guy that he could see his head bounce a little bit off of the floor, and he came back to rest. He'd never seen his gun sight. The mind does many things when you're standing there and death is present. It shuts down a lot of function. It shuts down normal body function. It puts endorphins into your system. It pumps adrenaline into your system. You can hear your heart pound, but you can't hear your gun go off. This is some of the phenomena of this. Another police officer interviewed in Louisiana told me that when he got done with his gunfight, he felt nothing. And maybe 5 or 6 minutes later, he felt a little twinge in his side. Half of his lung was gone. The bottom of his lung was shot away. He wasn't even aware of it at the time. I had another police officer engaged in these kind of fights that got wounded. That he was walking. He had a call at the liquor store. When he came up to the liquor store, somebody ran out. A shiny thing was looking in his hand. He seen the thing pop and the gun raised. Felt absolutely nothing. The guy was running down the alley. He shot 6 times. Roughly, the last shot was at 37 yards. He swore to Christ. He hit the guy, but the guy disappeared. Jumped in a squad car, called for information. Getting back up, people arriving, and we're sitting maybe 10 or 15 minutes later talking to police officers. Shit, my foot's wet. I must have pissed my pants. That's what he thought. He thought he pissed his pants. The truth of the matter is, his boot was full of blood. The squad car he was sitting in floor was full of blood. He almost bled to death, unaware of the fact that he's shot. This is some of the things that happen to the mind. The time warp part of this thing is when my shooting was over with, which took place in approximately 2 seconds, it seemed like it was 3 or 4 minutes. By the time the first squad car arrived there, it probably was 5 minutes. It felt like a half an hour. There's a time warp affecting me. The next thing I know, somebody says, I got to have your gun for the grand jury. Time warp effect is still with me. The next thing I'm sitting in a squad car. The next thing I'm at the police station. The next thing I'm giving an interview. And the next thing I'm sitting and having coffee in the morning wondering, you know, what just happened? Replaying it over and over in my mind again. And it's all coming out the same way. Slow motion, tunnel vision, loss of hearing, the effect of watching this guy intensely, seeing only a small portion of him. He had gray hair that was hanging on his face. I noticed that. He had a thread loose on a button. I see that intensely. And it's nighttime. Never hearing the gunshot. The gun that went off that I shot, I'm shooting plus B, 158 grain solid lead hollow point. When that went off, it sounded like a cat pistol pop. I didn't even feel it in my hand. That, all the interviews that I've had with police officers all over the country, that is the experience, that is the reality of police combat shooting. Then you stack on top of that, when a police officer involved in a shooting, that the subject is cloaked with the Constitution and all his civil rights. You know, you got to be sure, can we pull a gun now? Can we shoot at this guy? The consequences, you can lose your job, lose your security. All this is wrapped around the perpetrator. None of these are wrapped around you. It's our lot in life. Remember that it's reaction versus action. They react, we react. We're always playing catch up. And then on top of that, all the things you think about, his constitutional rights, what he's cloaked with. This guy will shoot at you in a crowded elevator. You couldn't put your gun out in a crowded elevator. You know, nobody's there on the review board to review what he does, but you know that you're going to the grand jury and everybody reviews what you have done. Something that you take 2 seconds to do, a split-second decision, will be looked at and analyzed by theorists, psychologists, lawyers for months before they make a decision. There's one thing I know for certain, that anybody that sits on a police review board should first be involved in the shooting themselves, or they shouldn't sit there. That I know for certain, because reality and theory, there's a world of difference. I want to say one other thing about how fast this goes down, is if we take identical shooting, one that happens in daylight and one that happens in the dark, identical in all respects. The one that happens at night will even accelerate faster than the one that happens in daylight. It'll accelerate faster because our response to that, what's happening to us at night, is reduced in direct correlation with existing light. So the same identical shooting, one in daylight and one in dark, the one in dark will even accelerate faster because our ability to comprehend what we're seeing is reduced in direct correlation with existing light. While watching television, I'm a fan of football. And by watching television, I noticed one guy on the field, the field goal kicker. Did you ever notice him? He never misses. He can go, he's the highest scorer on the team. He goes from season after season, and he never misses an extra point. He'll walk up, he'll come out, the crowd will be screaming. He'll look down and he'll see the football. He might glance up once at the goalpost, but from that moment on, he concentrates on that ball. All these 300-pounders are coming through, and they want to kill this guy. He makes 2 direct moves, and boom, the ball's off. And 100% of the time, damn near, it'll go through, for the extra point, it'll go through the uprights. They rarely miss. And I got a chance to interview the field goal kicker. I said, what is this technique? I watched you guys, and you're all the same. You know, you never miss. You have couple direct moves, very simplistic. The ball goes, and he's always scoring. He says a theory. The secret behind it is that once he looks down and addresses that ball, he makes the same moves every time the same way, right? But he's not kicking for the goalpost. What he did was he's planning in his mind's eye imaginary boxes directly above the line of scrimmage. His whole thought process is going from that ball roughly 7 yards to that box, because he knows if that ball goes through any portion of that box, it'll go through the uprights. Wonderful. So I know that if we can get police officers from that moment trained, that if I can program into them that imaginary box is going to lay right straight off from the chin, and they can go make that very simplistic move, regardless of what's happening in the head. Once he decides to shoot, he can no longer think. His mind's screwed up. He's getting faulty information. But all he has to do is be able to program that gun to stay upright, stick it right in that box, and if he hits that box, any portion of that box, and pulls the trigger at 7 yards or in, he's in a silhouette target. He can't miss. All we got to do is program simplistic move from the holster into the box and pull the trigger. Program him to get his hands in that box, just like the field goal kicker. There's a couple other techniques that I learned from the students that I added to this equation. Under stress and in low light, we have a tendency to shoot high. I know to gauge an intent, and we all do it. We look into the face of the subject. If we're looking in the face of the subject, we decide to return far. That's where the shots are going. Shots go where we look. Under night and in low light and under stress, everybody has a tendency to shoot high. So what we want to do is focus our students, or focus our attention to the area just above the belly button. All you got to think about is dropping your eyes off of that subject into right above his belly button, bringing that gun out with deliberate, place it in the buck, and as soon as you hit it, start cranking them as fast as you can. Anything, if it happens, shots are going to rise. If we hit him in this area and around the spine, we're going to rip him anyways. With automatics, too, they have a tendency to rise. So all things, forces that's working with it, night shooting, has a tendency to keep bringing those shots up. If they come up or into the chest cavity, we're doing a great job. If it stays in his gut, we're going to take him down. When we see that subject, if we make the final decision to go, we no longer can think. The process is done. All it is one quick move from this position, one move, stand upright, drop it in the box, look at the stomach and pull the trigger. That has to be the response, because shootings, 90% of them are very simplistic things. Either you're walking up to a house, the guy jumps in the door and starts shooting at you. You're approaching your car, he picks the time and place to fight. He tries to nail you. He walks up, you're standing on the street, he walks up to the side, you pulls a gun and points it at you and starts cranking away. You're sitting in a restaurant, he sees you there, he starts shooting at you. They're simplistic. There's nothing complicated about them. You don't want to look at gun sights. You'll never see gun sights. Nobody sees, they don't even know they got a gun in their hand when they're doing this. You've got to be trained to pre-programmed to shoot instinctively, to get that gun in position, to crank that trigger as fast as you can until that danger drops. You're going to find out by standing outright, keeping both eyes open, concentrating right above the belly button, and when you bring that gun in position, looking at that target with both eyes and pulling that trigger, you'll never lose sight of the target. If anything, the gun flash will help illuminate the target for you, but you'll never get blinded by the flash. Pistol. It's a natural instinctive point weapon. Because if you hold a pistol, a revolver, high up on the back strap, your hand gripped tightly around the gun, centered into the V, whenever you make a fist and throw that at a subject or throw that into the box, right, this gun will come level and true every time and shoot directly straight. So now we're going to have to, when I program you for the box position, getting the gun in the box the same way every time, concentrating on just above the belly button, chances are we're going to have to throw one other equation of adjustment in there, is the position of the wrist. Not only do we find the box now, but we got to learn and program how that wrist feels, level that automatic out. So when I grip an automatic up on the back strap, and when I point that automatic straight out with my fist that I do with the revolver, look what happens. It drops down. Most automatics, because of the pitch of the stock, will drop that gun off. So now when we work with programming, we got to find first the feel of that wrist. It's slightly cocked, but you've got to really program yourself to get that rich program that when you level it out by instinct and feel alone, you know how the wrist feels to level out the automatic straight. Then you can program in your mind's eye, and we'll keep setting it up slow. We'll continue to do this till you have that box that we're talking about, that without thinking, with no thought process at all, that you can slide your hands into that box every time, and at 7 yards and in, drop a bullet into that silhouette between the crotch and the throat. And of all the autopsies I've ever went to, I've never seen a police shooting where any police officer ever shot a group into a subject. Don't worry about it. We want to be hitting the crotch to the throat, but we want to be doing it with speed. I don't have to tell you this. You'll do this anyway. You're going to crank until that first danger disappears. You'll never get your eyes off that subject until that danger is gone. Something else I want to tell you. That while you're addressing to your adversary, while you're in that life and death struggle, that dance with death, and you're concentrating with all that you've got on that subject to bring him down, and you're going through all the slow motion, the tunnel vision, the distorted sound, you could walk a 50-piece band behind that subject, playing Stars and Stripes Forever. You'll never hear it, and you'll never see it. And one other thing about this encounter that's so intense, when you address him, nothing personal, you know what I'm saying? When you address him in that struggle, and you're trying to bring him down, and in the process of start shooting, a woman could walk between you and that subject with a baby carriage, pushing a baby. You'll never see her. That's what the intensity is. That's what survival intensity is. It happens to us all. No exceptions.
You can put yourself through the following course at any shooting range. You should practice indexing and instinctive shooting as part of your normal shooting routine.
The first sequence that we're going to shoot today, the first sequence I want you to do, and this is the only time that we're going to use gun sights. I want you to take your time, deliberately watch those sights, everything you're taught, concentrate on target. I want you to shoot the best group you can shoot for me at that concentration spot on the target. 6 shots, take your time, and shoot 6 shots as carefully and tight a group as you can shoot for me with one eye sighting the gun. Any questions? Okay. Now that you want to lock and load. Everybody lock and load. Okay, it holsters the gun. Everything's going to be done on a whistle. The command is going to be ready. When I blow the whistle, then you bring the weapon up and complete the command. This will be 6 shots, standing square to the target, the technique I showed you, straight up, bringing the gun up to your eye, and taking a careful sight picture. I want the tightest grip you can shoot for the first 6 shots. Ready? Stand easy. When I say ready, gentlemen, I want you to grab the stock of the weapon. Finger outside the trigger guard. Okay? Ready? Okay. When you're done with your 6, reholster the weapon and stand easy. Everybody stand easy. Okay, bring the gun up and stick it straight up in your chin. And now concentrating on the target, right? Off of your chin. You can pick it up in secondary region, the front sight post. Don't look at the sight. Watch the target and keep in the center of that front sight post where you think it's going into the center. Okay? Bring it back to holster. Same thing. You want to bring it out straight up in your chin and keep both eyes on the target. I want you to do it for me so you can take a look at that sight picture. Now looking at the target straight up in the chin. Okay, don't cock the head, straight off the chin. Can you pick that front sight up, secondary vision, without looking at it? Both eyes open. Take your time. 6 shots, concentrating on the target, using the front sight post in your secondary vision. Ready? Holster when you're done. Bring it back to holster. Well, it's a little to the right, but there isn't that much difference in that both eyes and one eye. So now what you want to do, you're holding it the right spot when you're concentrating. But I think your concentration point, you can try the next shots we shoot one at a time, to hold instinctively a little bit to the left of the dot, and it might be centering for you. We want to find your natural instinctive point, okay? As you can see, there's no difference basically in the one eye and 2 eyes. That is instinctive point for you. So that's where you always want to be looking when we do all this training, because they're going exactly where we want them to go. So your natural instinctive point is exactly where you're looking. This sequence, gentlemen, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring that gun back, stick it in the box, both eyes open. We're going to shoot 1 shot. You'll see where the shot goes. Then when the shot is gone, I want you to close your eyes and index that gun. Remember, feel the box, index your hands, see how your shoulders feel, how the gun is gripped, how your wrist feels when you're holding that gun and shooting true. With 1 shot, close your eyes for maybe 3 or 4 seconds, index how the gun feels with your eyes closed, and then bring the gun back to the holster. I want you to do this after the next 6 shots. 1 shot, when the shot is gone, close your eyes and index the weapon. Any questions? Ready? And after you're done indexing it, bring it back to the holster. Ready? Okay, gentlemen, for this sequence, what we're doing now is when I give the command ready, grip the weapon the same way. When the whistle blows, I want you to close your eyes and instinctively find that box and get off 1 shot. Open up your eyes after the shot is gone. See how the gun is lined up. If it's not lined up in the center, I want you to bring it into the center Close the eyes again and concentrate of indexing that weapon with the grip. And when you've got it in your mind's eye, bring it back to the box. Bring it back to your holster. Okay? Repeat, one shot with your eyes closed now. When the whistle goes, you draw the gun with your eyes closed. Put it into the box. When the weapon is fired, open up your eyes and see how it's lined up. If it's not hitting center target, bring it back to the center. Close your eyes and index it again before you reholster. Any questions? Ready? Ready? Two shots, gentlemen. After they're gone, index the gun again. After the shots are gone, open the eyes, bring it back to center, index it, then holster. Ready? Ready? When the whistle blows, close the eyes, bring the hands back into the box, and shoot off 3 shots. As soon as those shots are gone, open the eyes. If it's not lined up perfectly, bring it back to center, close the eyes, momentarily index the gun again, how it feels, the box, the wrist, and bring it back to the holster. Any questions? 3 shots. Ready? Good. Nice. Nice. Ready? Concentrate how it feels when it's center, because you always want to try to go back to that center position. Nice firm grip on the stock. You want to be locking up that wrist when you're shooting this way, especially when you start shooting fast. Because what we want, by holding the stock real firm, it keeps the wrist from cracking when you're shooting. Firm grip on the stock. Ready? 4 shots, gentlemen. Same sequence, 4 shots. Good rhythm, good cadence, good speed. Ready? Ready? For the next 5 minutes, at your own pace, what you're comfortable with, I want you to practice yourself everything that we come up to this point without shooting. Close your eyes for some and index and really concentrate on what you're doing. Eyes open for some. All the sequences we're doing, I want you to take your leisure for the next 5 or 6 minutes. You don't have to rush it. Take your time and just keep repeating that process until you're very comfortable with your instinctive point. Any questions? You know, you're on your own. You don't shoot any shots. You just go through all these sequences that we've done, concentrating hard on what you're doing, and after 5 or 6 minutes, we'll start shooting again. Now what we want to do here at this distance, because there is times and occasions where one-shot shooting at these distances is very appropriate. if you're pulling back a cover, if you're opening a door, if something develops extremely fast, extremely close, all you want to be doing now is bringing the arm horizontal with the ground, elbow touching the side, and sticking the gun right in front of your body, right dead center of your body, and cranking off the shot. We want to be able to do that, and then when you get the shot off, close your eyes again and index exactly how that feels when that shot's gone. And when you got that all indexed in your mind's eye, then bring the gun back to the holster. This whole sequence now for all 12 rounds will be one shot on a whistle, indexing. Very important. Ready? Ready? Four shots on the whistle. Ready? Nice. Four shots on the whistle. Ready? That's it. Well, I think you're ready, gentlemen, for qualify. Ready?
"25 rounds with duty ammunition. From 21-foot line, load 12. 2 shots in 3 seconds. Reholster to begin each sequence. Shoot 6 sequences. Reload 13. 3 shots in 4 seconds. 3 shots in 4 seconds. 5 shots in 6 seconds. From 6-foot line, 2 shots in 2 seconds. All times shown for each series are maximum. If a shooter can complete the firing sequences faster than the time shown without jeopardizing safety, he or she is encouraged to do so. Each agency can determine scores necessary for qualification. During a shooting, you don't have time to think. You only have time to react.